All right, so I'm back. Not I still don't know what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna do it, or anything like that. I think moving forward, I might refrain from kind of talking about the black pill. Um, you know, I've been really trying to be more optimistic, and it's tough. It really is because it's like uh, it's like when a drug addict tries to get off of the streets. Not exactly, of course, the drugs are a more serious thing, but it's like when a drug addict wants to get out of the streets, they can't because they live in filth. You know, like I'm not even talking about the systemic like things involved. I'm just saying like it's hard to be like, gee, life is super cool when you're just surrounded by filth. You know, so I'm trying to get out of the black pill. I've been trying really for months, but now I'm actually trying to make an actual effort. Not only that, but, and when I say I'm getting away from the black pill, I'm not saying I don't believe in it anymore. I'm just saying I don't want to be depressed about it anymore. You know, ignorance is bliss. If you're aware of the truth, then it's better just to kind of be humble or to just not think about it or whatever. You know, it's a trial and error, but I'll figure it out. So I still don't know if I'm going to come back. I don't really know. Right now, I just kind of sometimes I want to make a video because I get interested in some of the things I read about, and sometimes I just want to talk about it. So if you want to listen, then you could go ahead and listen. You don't have to if you don't want to. Let me see, what else do I want to say before I continue? That might be it, to be honest. Yeah, but I consider myself like a guy who really likes history. When I was a kid in school, I didn't really care too much about anything in school. I wasn't really like, as a kid, I wasn't very studious. Didn't really care about the stuff you had to do. Like sometimes there were times where I was really engaged, but it was really just like far and few in between. You know, it's very common, but I didn't force myself to really care. But I remember as a kid, you know, when I was in school, I remember that they in like social studies class, I didn't really care too much about it. I wasn't really that like interested in it. I did like my 6th grade social studies class a lot. Like that's because like it was just awesome. We were talking about, so maybe it was the teachers, because like 6th grade was good, 7th grade was all right, but it was pretty good, and then 8th grade was like pretty boring, just like, you know, typical. It's because like I'm not trying to be that guy, but I feel like the way that I remember it, the reason I didn't care about social studies or history or whatever, you know, some people call it different things, was because I wasn't engaged with it, because the kind of curriculum, it felt more like like you just have to soak up this information instead of really like when you read about historical events or things, you know, of that realm. I don't know about you, but I get really engaged into it. I pretend what like life was like, which I feel like is fairly common, but I imagine what life was like, what they ate, you know, like, and it really engages you. And just thinking about how far we've come as a society. But I digress. But I've been reading a lot of just different stuff, because I don't know, you know, I've been, fuck it, no shame in it. I've been trying to reread the Bible. When I was a kid, I used to be really religious. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably aren't too fond of that, because it's like, you know, this channel is pretty nihilistic at times, but I mean, I've always stated it, like when I started this channel, I didn't have an issue with religion or whatever. I've been always pretty sympathetic towards it as of late. When I was a little bit younger, I kind of hated it a lot. But now I really like and recognize it a lot for the last years, and stayed consistent that way. But when I was a kid, I was very religious. I was born Christian. I'm half Hispanic, ethnically, but like my family, all of them come from Mexico and shit. And if you know anything about Mexico, because of the Spanish, they're all Catholic for the most part. It's like 90 something percent Catholic. But ironically, my family, they don't like Catholics. They're not Catholic themselves. And I asked my mom about it because she's like a full, hard-blooded Christian. You know, she loves Christ and the Bible and all that stuff. But I was like, Mom, why did you never take me to church? Why don't you like Catholic people? And I forgot what she says, but she says something along the lines of like Catholics they like worship idols like the Virgin Mary, and you're only supposed to believe in God or something. And Catholics, you know, she's not fond of them. I don't think she hates them. Maybe I said that. You know, I'm just kind of speaking, you know, not too, what is the word? Seriously, I guess, you know, but I didn't go to church as a kid. I only went maybe like half a dozen times my entire life, and it was mainly because I think there was always like something that we had to go to when we had no money for like food, or like I remember my brother Christian, he would kind of get sent out to church every once in a while, and they would give him and the entire family like a big bag of like snacks and food and stuff because we were poor. But ironically, we were all fat. You know, that's kind of the thing. Like all the food is super unhealthy now. That, you know, it's like the food that is given, which is like very, very kind. This is when I was a kid, you know, but was just like really unhealthy slop. So it's kind of funny how that is. But I never went to to church. Like I was never really like sent out to go to church, and I really wish I did. You know, people say the opposite. They say, you know, like, I wish, you know, people usually hate religion in America, Christianity specifically. They're like, I hate Christianity because I was forced into it. I hated going to mass and, you know, doing the Eucharist or whatever it's called, drinking wine and bread. And I'm like, bitch, I'm fucking jealous for you. You got to drink wine and eat bread. I've never tried. I think I've tried wine. I think I've tried champagne, but I haven't tried wine. You know, but yeah, either way, I never went to church like that. My mom was very, and that makes me sad because it's like she's not even like a practicing Christian, but she really believes in it. That's what I'm saying. Like there are people in this world that are so simple minded, I guess you could say, that they don't have to engage with these things. They don't have to ask deeper questions. They don't have to ask deeper questions about their life, morality. You know, they're not really interested in that kind of dialogue. Where my mom doesn't read the Bible, but she's like a full-blown Christian. Like she's not like you know, she's like a real Christian. You know, she's very Christian, but she doesn't read the Bible. Matter of fact, when I recently, because I'm reading it again, I'm trying to, and I really want to complete reading it because I've never read the Bible front to end. I've never done that. I wasn't even given a Bible up until I was about, I want to say like 10 years old, 10, 11 years old. And clearly by then I wasn't going to read it because I was already kind of fading out of it. You know, so I feel like I didn't stay a Christian because it wasn't like forced on me, which is kind of like, you know, some people would say that's luxury, you know, to each their own. But, you know, I kind of wish I was more, you know, like, you know, kind of shoved in that direction. But either way, you know, that's not to say that Christianity or religion in general hasn't done bad. Of course it has. But, you know, this isn't a theological debate or anything. I'm just saying what I've been up to. And like I said, even before that, I was really interested in history. I like Roman, you know, European history. I've been really getting into like Eastern Asian, you know, the Qing dynasty and the Taoism and the people, Confucianism and the shoguns of Japan and whatnot, you know. But it's like, usually my bread and butter is usually just like Roman, Greek, European history. That's usually my bread and butter. You know, I just kind of like, I'm very familiar with it. I know a lot about it. I like reading about it. But you know, it's pretty funny. I even said on this channel, because sometimes I would make a video talking about European history. For a lot of the times I would make a video, I would usually mention that I was like, what do you call it? Like, I didn't care too much about American history, right? I was like, I don't really care too much about American history. I'm more of a European history kind of guy. I like you know, like I said, the Romans, Phoenicians, I guess they're kind of like Middle Eastern or whatever, but you know, it's kind of like, you know, the same area, old world. Punic Wars, Spain, you know, whatnot. But for a long time, I didn't really care about American history. But as of late, I've been really getting back into it, learning about the natives and the Mesoamerican, I guess you'd say empires, the little like city states that were going on for like thousands of years. The way a lot of the Native Americans lived. The Old West, believe it or not, this is like what the video is going to really be about, is that clearly I know about the Old West, you know, about like the gunslinging West, you know, vigilante, crazy time, I guess, but I never really cared too much about it. I was never too, I was never too fascinated with it, I guess, you know, and, like recently, like very recently, I just kind of like, I started remembering that when I was like a kid, there was like a field trip to a museum that was like this beautiful painting about like cowboys and, you know, the like East Texas kind of like, you know, sandy dunes, all that stuff, you know, not dunes, but, you know, like those like cliffs, whatever they're called, like those badland kind of terrain, just big cliffs and cactus and these like, you know, of like these spiny little, not cactus, but those little like grass or whatever. And it kind of like really interested me because I was like looking at the pictures and I was like, oh, that's cool, you know, and I started like reading up and I was like I read a portion of Blood Meridian, which is about the Old West. I read it like a couple years ago, and then I started kind of getting back into it. I was not the book, but like the you know, but the era and how it kind of was, you know, like now I'm getting a call, so see you later.